Well, guys, you asked for it, so here he is, the man who beat Tyron Woodley last weekend in a statement performance, then followed it up with a personal call from the president himself, Colby Chaos Covington, at long last, back on his second home. Look, at Submission Radio, how are you, man? Taking a call right now with the red phone.
It's good to be back, boys. You know, we got to make Submission Radio great again today.
Well, it's great to be great with Colby Covington on the show. And man, listen, first of all, congrats on the win, because after all these years of trash talk and back and forth and build up with the fight, how satisfying was it for you to get that win and beat Tyron Woodley and also do it in the fashion that you did it in? And what was bigger for you, the win itself or that unbelievably crazy moment of you putting the president on loudspeaker and speaking to him afterwards?
Yeah, you know, it goes back to, you know, my motto and the way I live and the way our great president of America, Donald Trump, lives. Promises made, promises kept. And that's exactly what I did, boys. I went out there and did exactly what I said I was going to do. If you guys saw all the media that I did, which wasn't very much in the lead up to the fight, I said, hey, if Tyron Woodley doesn't leave the octagon in a stretcher, then I didn't do my job. And that's exactly what happened. I left him in a stretcher. He was on a stretcher out of the octagon backstage. But let me tell you one thing. I did some bad, horrible things to Woodley. He had to leave on a stretcher. Jorge Masvidal was leaving in a body bag when we fight. I promise you that. And what was a bigger moment? I would definitely say the president of the free world, the greatest living American, the greatest president of all time, Donald Trump, calling me after my fight was a way bigger, feather in my cap than beating Woodley and doing something I already knew I was going to do. There was nothing Woodley could do to stop me, and he knew that. That's why he avoided me so long. That fight would go the same way 100 out of 100 times. Didn't matter if it was 10 years ago, 2 years ago, and 2 years from now. It was always going to be the same outcome. Me retiring Tyron Woodley and, getting to talk to the greatest president of all time, Donald Trump.
I'm also wondering, man, I mean, you've spoken to us about the humble beginnings that you went through, sort of not coming from a wealthy place and going through the stuff that you went through with your family, then going through in wrestling and going through all this stuff just to make it to American Top Team, and then going through the UFC, fighting the toughest guys. And then remember, you used to talk to us about, oh, the UFC are just sending me around the world, making me fight these guys. And, we used to always talk about, hey, one day the title shot, one day this, one day that. There you were on ESPN speaking to the president. I mean, what did your family say? What was your mum's reaction? And I mean, was a part of you thinking back to those origin days of you sort of starting out and hoping that, hey, one day I could be a fighter of this magnitude, that this kind of stuff would happen to me?
Since I was a little kid who grew up in a small town in Oregon, no one ever made it out as an athlete or, ever to do big business ventures. I always had those dreams and goals, though. I always told my mom when I was a little kid, told my dad, 5, 6 years old, Mom, I'm going to be a world champion someday. I'm going to be the best at what I do. I'm going to be the greatest wrestler, the greatest fighter the world has ever seen. And now I'm here, and I always knew I was going to be here. I believed in my journey. I believed in the process. And, I trusted God's timing for me. And so, I know that it's my time now. And I know that the best is yet to come for me. Getting a call from the president was amazing. Being the only fighter in the history of this company to ever go to the White House, that was amazing. Getting the first family, making history as being the first fighter to bring the first family front row at a fight. That was amazing. Being the history of my last fight, what I did to Woodley in that fourth round, what I get like 130 strikes to 2, outstruck him, that's got to be history, and finishing him. No one finished Tyron Woodley like I just did. He got beat by decision a couple of times, but no one's finished him, made him quit, made him scream for his life to tap out and have to leave the octagon in a stretcher. So, this is just all destiny, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. And Jorge Masvidal knows that. He knows there's nothing he can do to stop it. Dana White wants this fight. I want this fight. The fans want this fight. Jorge Masvidal, Street Judas, was talking a big game. He was writing checks with his mouth, but his ass can't cash. We know what's going to happen when we step in the octagon, but we'll see if he signs a contract someday, because I don't know. I think his fans are going to find out his 15 seconds of fame are up, and he doesn't want to get exposed. And, he's a coward. He's going to avoid this fight.
And definitely going to touch on that fight in just a second. I'm also wondering, I mean, I think a lot of people, when they see you fight and they see the domination that you put on in that octagon and also your persona out there, they can never imagine that a guy like yourself would go through adversity and have tough times and figure out ways to get through to the next. And I remember you even used to tell us when you and Jorge were friends how you guys used to wrestle on the floor of the apartment and fight and talk about the big days when you eventually would fight, which looks like it's right around the corner. But I'm just wondering, what were some of those sort of adversities and some of those times in your life that you can think back to where you thought, man, maybe this thing won't come together, man, maybe, you know, some of the hurdles that you had to go through just to get to this point, to speak to us right now in the position that you're in?
Yeah, I went through those at a young early age. My mom was a single mother at the time. She had to work 3 jobs just to put food on the table for us so we could live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment and in the trailer parks with me and my sister. So, I knew what tough was like, and growing up through high school, through college, not ever having money, and then getting out of college and being a broke college student in debt and having to sacrifice, giving my all to this career MMA. I put all my eggs in this basket. It wasn't like, hey, if I lose, if it doesn't come together and I don't make money in this career, it's not like I can go do anything else. I didn't have a fallback plan. I didn't have, something else I could go do. I gave everything to fight, and I always believed, and I never gave up, even through the 6 years that I first started out here in Florida training MMA out of college and not having, any money to my name, having to run to the gym sometimes every day in the rain and be soaking wet going into practice. But I never doubted myself. I trusted God's plan. I kept working unbelievably hard. And the biggest thing was just self-belief, and I earned it every single day. And I didn't put my head down and cry about my situation or complain and just be like, oh, I want things handed to me. No, I was the blue-collared American that went out there and grabbed things. And that's why I'm here where I am today. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop me.
There's this great video online where a guy comes up to you and you give him this really good advice about, how to make it and some of the stuff that worked for you. Do you know the video that I'm talking about? It was circulating online. I think a fan must have taken it. I don't know if you know that it was taken, but you were really nice to this guy basically, and you really took your time and really gave him your time and really some great advice. So I'm just wondering quickly, for people listening right now, there's a lot of adversity going around. What is your advice for someone right now starting out at MMA who thinks, hey, I don't know if I can do this or not? What's a good piece of advice from Colby Covington that they could sort of use?
I would just always say to believe in yourself wholeheartedly and don't ever have doubts or be negative. I mean, of course, you can't think so far ahead to, oh, I want to be here someday, years. You got to just take it one step at a time, one training at a time. And you're going to take some losses, you're going to take some lumps. But if you keep coming back, you keep believing in your dreams, and you keep working hard for them, anything in life is possible. And I'm a true testament to that. I went out and got something in life that everybody told me I shouldn't have never gotten, and you should never be there. But I went and did it because I never stopped believing. I never kept working for it. And it's all a part of the plan.
I've got one more thing, and by the way, that's great advice, Colby. Just one more thing on Woodley. In the lead up to the fight, you obviously had a lot of war of words and bad blood, and it seems like you never pulled any punches. After the fight, though, a lot of people were saying that Woodley should retire. Dana White was saying that he should retire. What I found interesting is that you didn't say that, and you actually said he was a great champion and that he's earned the right to sort of choose whatever he does in his career. I'm just curious, why did you choose to do that? It seemed like it would have been very easy for you to just say, yep, retire, end his career there.
He's a former champion in the sport. He's reached the highest of levels. He just so happened to run into the greatest fighter in the world right now, Colby Chaos Covington. So, I can't fault him for losing and getting finished by me. He's still got fight left in him. He could still knock out anybody in the world, still has a high pedigree. So, I don't want to jump on that bandwagon too quick. And especially because he's only 38 years young. You got guys like Daniel Cormier who are fighting to their mid-40s, Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, some of these great American fighters that fought into their 40s. So if he wants to go in and cash in some paychecks, go do it, man. You got a great resume on your hands, but you just got added to my resume. So of course everybody's going to try and downplay you and kick you while you're down, but go get your money, brother.
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously something that's very classy. Before we talk the Jorge Masvidal thing, obviously something we've got to bring up. We're not a politics show, so we don't talk politics on this show. But obviously part of the aftermath of your performance were sort of the comments that you made about, Woodley and the BLM movement. I'm just curious, and I wanted to sort of, allow you to address it. Did you make any, what did you make of the reaction, the notion that, you know, some of the comments are racist? Is there any concern on your part ever that trash talk, you know, could lead to somebody getting hurt out of the cage? And how did you sort of process the general reaction, you know, after the fight and after, you know, everything that happened?
Okay, well, first off, I didn't say anything that the BLM website doesn't already advertise. They advertise that they're a Marxist group. They advertise that they're a communist group. It's on their webpage. So it's not like I said anything that wasn't already stated and what they're trying to get their point across as. You know, they're a domestic terrorist group. They're a Marxist group. They don't want equality. They want anarchy. They're burning and looting our American businesses. They're killing people. They're just putting innocent people's lives in danger. And for what? You know, for what purpose? You know, they don't have an actual purpose. You know, they're being led by Democrats. They're being led by Joe Biden, and they're fighting for a cause that is non-existent. I mean, where does the Black Lives Matter checks and donations go to? It goes to funding a Democrat president. So they don't even know what they're fighting for. And then all the people that are coming out getting the backlash for, look at the people that the so-called MMA journalists are reporting on. They're asking a guy from London. They're asking a guy from Nigeria. They're asking a guy from wherever, some other country. But you know, that's not even American politics. You're not even asking people that are in America and know anything about America. So, you know, the backlash was not warranted. I got to say big respect to Dana White for not bowing to the woke mob. Dana White is the only commissioner that doesn't try and force an agenda down your throat. Like basketball, NFL, they're trying to force a one-sided agenda down your throat. They want the woke mob. They want to force their politics down your throat, and you have to accept it. And if you don't, then we're not going to pay you. Dana White's not like that. He's not trying to limit my free speech. This is America. We have freedoms in America. And, you know, he's not telling me what I should and shouldn't do. And he's okay with which way I want to go. And that's what I love most about Dana White and the UFC as a whole, because they don't limit their fighters' freedom of speech and they don't take away our rights. They let us be who we want to be. There's nothing that I said was racist, and there's nothing that I did that was racist. End of story. Next question.
One of the guys that sort of took issue with your comments and challenged you to a fight in December is Leon Edwards. And I'm just wondering, how do you respond to that challenge and him sort of saying that he wants to fight you next?
That's crazy. You guys are talking about Street Judas Masvidal. You know, we have such a built-up animosity, you know, being best friends. You know, he was writing all these checks. You know, his ass can't cash, talking all this shit, saying, Colby, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna leave you like this. You know, all the heated drama we had at our old gym. And it's just, you know, this needs to be settled, man. We're the top fighters in the world. You know, his hype is coming to an end, and I want to be the one to put it to an end. So, you know, I'm sick of him, you know, talking to the media and not having to account for his words. So unless I'm fighting Street Judas or I'm getting a rematch for my title that I rightfully deserve and got cheated out of by Mark Not So Goddard, then, you know, I'm not doing anything, boys. That's all I've earned, and that's what I deserve. I'm the greatest fighter in the world right now. Doesn't matter who they put in that octagon against me. I will get my hand raised.
It's interesting, actually, bringing up Jorge, because initially he was targeted to do this BMF rematch with Nate Diaz. And now Dana White, even on the press conference just yesterday, said, hey, we are looking at this Colby Jorge fight. So what's your reaction to sort of people saying and believing that, hey, Nate is still in the play here? What can you tell us? Is Nate still in the play? Has the UFC offered you this fight? Where are we at in terms of negotiations for it?
Yeah, Dana White came up to me after my fight immediately and said, hey, we want to do you versus Street Judas Masvidal. I said I accepted right on that night, in that minute. So he knows I'm on board. The UFC knows I'm on board. Now it's just about getting Street Judas Masvidal on board. That guy's scared. He's scared of my shadow. If my shadow was around him, he'd be running. So who knows if he'll show up to the octagon. You know, I don't want to have to beat him up in the streets of Miami, because I am the king of Miami. I am Donald Trump's favorite fighter, but I don't want to beat him up in the streets of Miami, guys, because if I beat him up there, no one's going to pay his hospital bills. At least if I go out there and expose him in front of the world in the UFC octagon on live television, then he'll get his hospital and medical bills paid for. You know, the thing is Jorge's going to have to show up to fight me one day. You know, he's got to pay his ex-wife's lawyer fees. He's got to pay alimony payments. You know, he's got some other payments he's got to pay. So he's going to be broke soon. He's going to come running to daddy. And he knows the only money fight he's getting is me. I'm his money fight. That other fight that they're trying to do with that soy boy, they're not trying to do that fight. That's just a fight he's begging for because he won it one-sided, and now he's looking for an easy fight. So this is the fight that's being presented to him. That's the only fight that should be made, and it's the biggest fight probably they can make in the UFC right now. It's a pay-per-view main event. It's a 5-rounder. You know, it's an exciting matchup with fireworks on the line. You know, I'm not going to be looking to dance on his feet like Marty Fake Newsman did. I'm going to be looking to dance on his face, break his face, and he's leaving that octagon in a body bag. Mark my words.
Well, that's interesting. So just to clarify, so this would be a pay-per-view main event, because I was going to ask, you know, if it was, say, on a pay-per-view card, if it was on the undercard, it would only be 3 rounds. If it was a fight night main event, at least we get 5 rounds. But you're saying this would be a pay-per-view main event, right?
Yeah, it's got to be a pay-per-view main event. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We're 2 of the biggest draws in the company, and we're just so happen to be in the same weight class. And it just so happens to be we used to be best friends. We used to live together, train together every single day. There, you know, there's documentaries on YouTube of us hanging out together, living the life together, training together. I mean, we train at every opportunity we got. We train in the apartment together, in the bathrooms, everywhere. We just love to train, but you know, he's also lazy too, and he didn't like to train anymore, and that's why he wanted to backstab me and be the Judas he is and turn his back on me. So, you know, this fight's going to be exciting. I mean, I think the best place to propose it for would be for American Airlines Arena in Miami, Florida. You know, I think that would be a great ticket, and hopefully by the time fans come back, December, January, it's just perfect. It aligns perfectly, and there's a big market for MMA in Miami, so people want to see fighting in Miami, and I think the UFC needs to come back to Miami.
Wow, I think given the magnitude of the rivalry and the fact that it's kind of all centered around Miami, I think that'd be a sort of perfect idea. I'm just curious sort of how sort of far talks are with the UFC, and if this is sort of, you know, getting off the ground, and are you concerned at all that this fight might not come together? Do you think Masvidal's team is sort of interested? I know they were targeting that Diaz fight.
You know, the talks have been great. I like I said, I agreed on the night that I fought Woodley and retired Woodley that night and left him in a stretcher to the hospital. You know, I agreed right away. I said, Dana, let's do it. I want to sign it up. You know, the terms are pretty much done. We're ready to go. So it's all in Street Judas Masvidal's court. You know, he knows he doesn't want this fight because he knows what's going to happen deep down inside. And he can say whatever he wants. You know, he said a lot of stuff before, but if you guys didn't notice, you should look at him now. He's silent. He's got nothing to say because he knows what's coming now. He knows what's in front of him. And, you know, he knows he's going to get embarrassed in front of the world. And he's going to get hurt. He's not going to look recognizable to his kids anymore. His kids are never going to look at him the same again. They're going to call me his daddy after I'm finished with him because I am Jorge Masvidal's daddy.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, you know, the team has to agree to the fight, because a lot of people are saying, you know, why would Masvidal agree to the fight right now? There's no title on the line. Nate Diaz is arguably an easier fight for him. Let's say he doesn't agree to the fight. What would your stance be then? What would your next play be? Would you be looking to just sit out and wait until this title fight happens? What would you do as a plan B?
I mean, if he sits out and he turns his back away from the only fight that's being presented to him because there's not another fight being presented to him, then the fans are going to find out how much of a coward he really is and how much of a pussy he is. So, you know, he'll get exposed for that, and that'll be worth the weight in gold that it is in itself. The fact that he ran from me like the little bitch that he is, talked all that shit, but now he ain't got nothing to say. Now he doesn't want to come see me in the octagon because he knows what's going to happen. So, you know, that'll be pretty satisfying if he runs for me and ducks for me, because all the fans will know he's a little bitch and a pussy. And then, you know, I'll just have to pivot back to my title fight. You know, I'm owed a rematch, and I want my rematch, and it doesn't matter which order it goes in, but Street Judas and Marty Fake Newsman will get their ass beat. I promise you. Colby 2.0 is here. I was playing with you guys before. I'm not playing no more. Now I'm fucking serious. And you're seeing the serious Colby 2.0 coming.
You obviously spoke about the battles that you used to have with Tyron Woodley in training and how you used to beat him. And then we saw what happened in the fight. And you've spoken to us about some of the sparring that you've had with Jorge all over the place. Where would you say you were more dominant, in those sparring sessions with Tyron Woodley or in those sparring sessions with Jorge Masvidal?
Oh, 100% with my sparring sessions with Street Judas, Jorge Masvidal. I mean, they were violent. You know, he was unconscious multiple times. You know, I left Woodley in a pool of his blood and unconscious once or twice, but Jorge Masvidal, it was 10 times the effect on him. I mean, he's just the easier fighter. He's a little guy. You know, he's got no heart. You know, he's a front runner. I know how he fights, you know, and he's emotional more importantly. So it would be so violent. I feel so bad he'd have to leave in a body bag. Well, no, I wouldn't feel bad because he's a piece of shit person. He's a dirt bag, and he did turn his back on me for no reason. So, I promise you, it's going to be violent. It's going to be nasty, and he knows that. That's why he's not saying anything, and he's probably going to avoid this fight as long as he can.
I know that you've obviously got your eyes on Masvidal. That's the main target for you, or the title fight. But I wanted to sort of address something. Khamzat Chimaev is someone who's obviously been rising through the ranks, and he called out just about everybody in the division, including yourself. I'm just wondering if you saw that and what you've thought of him so far.
I don't even know who that is, man. I remember someone saying that there was some kid on my prelims that was fighting, and he had a bunch of hype on him. He hadn't fought anybody that's ranked in the top 50 in the world, and they didn't even bring me into the building before like the co-main event. So I didn't see the prelims and this kid that you talk of, but if he gets some rank wins and he becomes somebody, come see me. I'm the greatest fighter in the world. I'm not looking to avoid anybody. I'm looking to beat everybody and anybody in the way. So anybody that that you want to bring the hype machine behind these kids and think they're great and they can do this and that hype machine will get halted in a second if they come see Colby Chaos Covington. I got dragon energy, boys. I don't know if you guys know about dragon energy, but I'm telling you, when you get to hang out with the Trumps, go backstage, be at their rally, get a phone call after my fight, and just have such a good personal connection and close relationship to the Trump family, the greatest living family in America. It just gives you this certain energy, and it's called dragon energy, and it's unstoppable. I don't care who you are. I could be fighting Hulk, King Kong, whoever. It doesn't matter. When you have dragon energy, you're an unstoppable force.
I know you got the dragon energy, you got bang energy as well right there on the table. Appreciate your time, Colby. We'll let you go in a second. But I also wanted to ask you, because I know that you do a lot of stuff with obviously mybookie.ag. I know you like to make the money on bets. UFC 253 happened yesterday, and I'm curious, did you make some cash off MyBookie? And what did you think of the way Israel Adesanya was able to handle Paulo Costa? Is it basically how you expected it going?
To be honest, guys, I didn't watch the fights last night. I had some better things to do with some of my mamacitas in South Beach. But I always recommend people to bet the fights, to bet the woke sports. It just sucks. I feel bad for the people because they don't want to bet on that spineless coward LeBron James. The guy who's he won't say free Hong Kong. He won't say he won't talk about the slave labor that he uses in China with the women he has working in his sweatshops to make his apparel and then sell to his fans. He'll have these sweatshops and these women working for dollars, but then selling their jerseys for hundreds of dollars to his so-called fans. So, I feel bad for all the people that are being duped by LeBron James and his Marxist and communist movement. And, I just hope, but hopefully you guys made your bank accounts great again, because MyBookie AG was giving a risk-free $20 bet. Just use Colby20 as your promo code, and let's keep getting rich and making our bank accounts great again, everybody.
As people use that promo code, I'm just wondering, where do you stand on this Justin Gaethje Khabib fight? This is a big betting fight that I bet a lot of people are going to be using your promo code for.
And you were with Justin at the Trump rally. You must have some inside information.
It's tough to say. I really don't know. I think there'll be a good fight. It's good for Justin. He's looked good lately, but I don't know. He fights recklessly but he's got the good wrestling accolades to maybe stop Khabib. I know Khabib doesn't want to come up to 170 and face a guy like me because he knows he can't take me down, and then he's just going to get outstrucken. So this will be the first test he has with a guy who can actually wrestle, and it should be interesting. So, how about on the reverse side of that? Justin's manager and Khabib's manager, he's going to double dip in that main event to get, some money in his pocket. How funny is that guy? Ali Abdelaziz, he comes out this week in supporting of the Black Lives Matter movement. And, all the people that were trying to cancel me and all the woke mob that was coming out saying I was racist and that Black Lives Matter. And he's coming out in support of the Black Lives Matter. But when I looked over when he was a couple seats down from me at the president's rally and the Black Lives Matter came in and they were raising their flag, he was screaming on, "Boo, fuck you, get out of here, boo." So how funny is that? Ali Abdelaziz, once again, a two-faced motherfucker and just a dirtbag in general, always playing both sides of the fence.
What was it like for you guys being so close to each other? It's crazy looking at that photo, seeing you on one side, him on the other side. I imagine you guys were kind of in pretty close proximity, for most of the day. And then we all know what happened at the Palms Buffet. What was it like being so close to Ali that day?
Yeah, it was hilarious because, he had one of his little fighters come up to me, and just tell him, try and get peace. Hey, man, Ali's going to be cool if you're cool. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, I wouldn't care if he wasn't cool. What's he going to do to me? I'm the best fighter in the world. He can't do anything to me. I'll dump him on his head and leave him unconscious if I needed to. But, I did it for the president. I respected him. I respected Dana White because he brought them there. I'm not going to put them in jeopardy. They know I'm a true professional and company man. But, yeah, it was, they kept him a safe distance away that, I didn't have to worry about anything or anything. And he's just a two-faced person. He's a hypocrite. And it's just, I think he's getting exposed every single day and people are seeing his true colors. And, he's not a good human being. And that's my biggest thing in this game is that, I'm exposing the evil and the bad people and it's good versus evil. And that's what this fight's all about.
All right. Well, the big fight could possibly happen with Jorge Masvidal in December, January at the American Airlines Center over there in Florida, Miami. Colby, we appreciate you coming into the program. Of course, follow the man at Colby Cov MMA and ProWrestlingTees.com/Colby Cov MMA. Look at that T-shirt. Look at that, man. Thank you so much for coming on to Submission Radio, man. We appreciate you.
Good talking to you, boys. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon.